And hello everyone, and this week I will be doing something different. I will be doing a short video tutorial introducing Xiangqi endgame compositions, which are also known as problems in international chess. It is a very big discipline of its own, and I personally think that it contains a lot of the heart and soul of Xiangqi. So before we begin, some terminology. Xiangqi endgame compositions, or Paiju as they are called in Chinese, are man-made puzzles that contain various situations that may not be possible to occur in over-the-board play. And they contain very brilliant tactical themes and have their roots in endgame situations. The term endgame compositions was coined by the Asian Xiangqi Federation several decades ago, and it has become an art form of its own, as you will see from the examples that I have prepared below. According to the late Tu Jingming, before the 1940s, there were no clear boundaries differentiating the endgame and endgame compositions. For endgame and endgame compositions, and most endgame compositions were studied just like that. After the 1940s, there was a surge in the study of the problems of endgame compositions, and slowly it branched out into many various different forms. And now there are very many different types of endgame compositions with quite a huge classification. This classification was given in Tu Jingming's Xiangqi dictionary. So most of the commonly seen Xiangqi endgame compositions can be classified as endgames whereby continuous checks are delivered before a win is achieved. They're called 连兆胜牌局. Some endgame compositions do not contain continuous checks, and they are called as 宽进局. And of course, there are brilliant draws. And out of the draws, a subcategory would be 7-piece endgame draws, which was inspired by the gathering of the 7 stars, which I will mention later. And because of its popularity with the masses, many endgame compositions have been passed down generations to generations since for the past few hundred years, and some have become so entrenched and so well studied that chess hustlers have began to use them and to make a livelihood. The more commonly passed down or well-known endgame compositions are known as civil endgame compositions, or 民间牌局, while the endgame compositions that are used by chess hustlers to make a living are called 江湖牌局, or street endgame compositions. Then there are the artistic forms of the endgame compositions. I believe the term is gecko-graphic in international chess, and I've chosen to call them diagrammatic endgame compositions. There are many types of diagrammatic endgame compositions, whereby diagrams of animals, of the moon, the sun, the comet, etc., have all been created in the past, and all these endgame compositions are fully functional puzzles. Then there are the Chinese character endgame compositions, whereby the pieces are arranged in the form of a Chinese character or ideogram. And there are also game and fun field endgame compositions called 游戏牌局. Before we continue, this is a list that I have gathered of the various endgame compositions that were found in the ancient manuals. At that time, there was no term endgame compositions. And by the way, the Chinese term for the endgame compositions Paiji was believed to be coined by a person called Zhou Bi something in the 1930s. I cannot seem to find the article or in the books the relevant information in the article. So these are some of the endgame compositions that were found in the ancient times. Perhaps the oldest one would be the Dreams of Divine Positions, and I've translated the first two. And I will try my best to do more to promote this discipline of Xiangqi. Okay, before we begin, perhaps the earliest endgame composition that is still extant was found in Chen Yuanliang's Shiling Guangji from the Southern Song Dynasty. The exact date of the book that was written is not known, but it was published in the Southern Song Dynasty, which means that this puzzle could have easily existed between the 12th century, therefore 13th century. And although this is a very simple endgame situation, it does contain some tactical themes like like cross checks, sacrificial play, etc. All the puzzles that I will be presenting today can be found on my website, whereby the interested reader can try them out on their own. For endgames whereby continuous checks are delivered before a win is achieved, the longest one that I have managed to find was over 300 plies long. So this was the position given, and there are many tactics, and most of them include discovered checks, maneuvering with discovered checks so that other tactical combinations can be used. This endgame composition was created by a person from Changzhou called Yang Yaming. I believe the year was 2015, or in this decade. The name of the puzzle is 再攀高峰, which would mean to climb higher and higher. Other than this one, which is over 300 plies, I've seen many other creations which are over 200 plies, which are easily over 200 plies. So some people have been trying their best to create the longest puzzle possible, and most of them are quite interesting. Again, this puzzle, the solution to this puzzle can be found on the website at the URL given below in the in the introductory portion of the page. For non-continuous checks endgame compositions, I found this not too long ago. It's believed to be over 200 plies, and it's quite an interesting puzzle with a very nice theme. But for introduction's sake, I will not go into detail for this puzzle. There are also draws in the ancient manuals. In the earlier ancient manuals, most of the puzzles were by red win. However, as the level of skill slowly improved, puzzles which ended in draws slowly became more and more popular. And most of these puzzles are seemingly benign, and they are anything but that. This puzzle is from one of the ancient manuals, 100 Variations in Xiangqi, and it has a very befitting title called 各守封疆, which means to guard their respective borders and prevent the enemy from moving. And if you try out the puzzle, which I have added some notes in English, you'll understand the beauty of this puzzle. Incidentally, for the ancient manuals, a lot of the titles used to name the endgame compositions are very rich in culture and the history of the Chinese, and many of these titles are often ancient bits of ancient scriptures. One of the most commonly quoted ones would be Sun Tzu's Art of War, the records of the Grand Historian, Han Fei Zi, Zi Zhi Tong Jian, etc. And usually the title would contain a hint to solving the puzzle, or would tell the problem solver what the final position might be. And personally, I think it's one of the cultural gems of the Chinese. So I highly recommend any problem enthusiasts when trying out these Xiangqi endgame compositions, to also pay some attention to the titles and what they might mean. The next topic would be 7-piece endgame draws, whereby there will be 7 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for red, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for black. These pieces, it is a theme that is present in such endgame compositions, and they will all end in draws. I found this in one of my files, and it's called 识破天惊. Unfortunately, I was not able to identify the creator of this puzzle, but it is deceptively simple, and do try it out on the URL below. The next portion will be civil endgame compositions and street endgame compositions. As mentioned earlier, endgame compositions that have been passed on for generations are called civil endgame compositions, and they often are modified by chess hustlers to make a livelihood, and most of them have their roots in the ancient manuals. And chess hustlers would modify them, and whereby it would seem that red would win very easily, and the unsuspecting person trying to solve the puzzle will pay a fee and lose the money. So this is one of the ways that chess hustlers make their living in China, but I think there are not so many hustlers nowadays. I did see a video or a report of chess hustlers in Hong Kong, which tried to use a certain position to trick an old man. So it was quite a fun newspaper report, I think. But like all things which are needed, they can never be found. So I'm so sorry not to be able to find the link. Anyway, civil endgame compositions are very important to the culture of Xiangqi, and it is from here that I must introduce the 4 greatest Xiangqi endgame compositions of all time. Before we continue with the 4 greatest endgame compositions, an example of a civil endgame composition that has been passed on and very highly popular would be Chasing General Han Xin Under the Moonlight. The title would be from the records of the Grand Historian, which spoke about Xiao He chasing General Han Xin after Han Xin felt disheartened for not being able to do more under Liu Bang's service. Xiao He went after Han Xin at night, chased and managed to catch up with Han Xin, and eventually managed to convince him to continue serving Liu Bang. And this was a very important bit of history, because with Han Xin's help, Liu Bang was able to establish the Han Dynasty. And the puzzle would show how Xiao He chased after Han Xin and managed to convince him to come back. It's quite a very it's very rich in culture, and although the puzzle, which is from an ancient manual, is not very difficult by today's standards, but it is still one of the most popular endgame compositions that have been passed on for generations. The Gathering of the Seven Stars is perhaps the greatest Xiangqi endgame composition of all time. It has over 300 variations, and it also has some historical value and importance. Back in the early 20th century, there was a Dutchman called Klein, who was a friend of the late centenarian Xiangqi king, Xie Xiaxun. With Xie Xiaxun's help, Klein was able to write a book solely devoted to this endgame composition, and I believe the title was Gathering of the Seven Stars, an endgame with over 300 variations. But unfortunately, I have not been able to locate this book over the past few years. If anyone knows or has a copy or knows where to get it, please tell me. Please email me at the email on my website. Thank you. The next, in no particular order, the next endgame composition would be the Earthworm Taming the Dragon, called Xiangqi Long. It is also a similarly tricky, similarly simple, very simple endgame situation, but if played correctly, it would be a draw. So this is another very well studied endgame situation whereby there are many books or studies that have been done about it. The next one will be Traveling 1,000 Miles in Solitude. Incidentally, this endgame composition was the one I used on the cover page of my lexicon, and it is similarly benign, and it contains many tactical themes which are very interesting, and like the first two endgame compositions that were mentioned just now, all three are chariot pawn endgame compositions. So it would seem that chariot pawn endgame compositions are not as easy as they look. The fourth and last, but not least, grade 4 endgame compositions of all time would be the Wild Horse Roaming Fields endgame composition. There are 3 variations, whereby in one of the original versions there were no pawns here. Later, in various different ancient manuals, in the Recluse of the Fragrant Bamboo, there was a red pawn, and in 100 Games of Xiangqi there was also a black pawn, and black would win in this situation. So it would seem that the endgame composition was flawed in some instance. Nevertheless, the tactical theme in this endgame composition would be the chariot and horse and pawn combinations. And next very big topic, and perhaps most interesting one for the Westerner, would be diagrammatic endgame compositions. This very simple endgame composition, we can see that it's arranged in the shape of a crescent. It was one of the earlier endgame compositions that was created after 1940. The creator was Lin Youru, one of the more prominent Xiangqi endgame specialists of his time. Other than the crescent moon, there also the pieces can also be arranged into animals. I recall seeing a endgame composition whereby the pieces were arranged such that black would have there was a goal post for blacks on black side of the board, and red would kick the soccer ball and attack the black go until a kill was seen. But again, I don't know where that endgame composition is now. It's somewhere in my computer, but I spent the last 30 minutes trying to look for it, and unfortunately I still can't locate it. Maybe it will just appear sometime soon. And if diagrammatic endgame compositions are very interesting, and all these are all functional, very functional. There's only one way to solve it. And while these are already very interesting, the endgame specialists in China and many other places like Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong have taken it to another level. So this endgame composition was created by Liu Qing. It's called 千年等一回, or waiting once every 1,000 years. It was to commemorate the last solar eclipse of the previous century. And as you can see, after solving the puzzle, you'll get the sun, the moon, and this is its representation of a comet. So there are also other very high-level endgame and the next, like I said before, endgame specialists from China and elsewhere have taken the art form into another level. In this example, the original position of the pieces would be arranged in this manner, but upon solving the puzzle you should get an OK. So there are many other endgame compositions of such nature, and they would often reveal various very beautiful Chinese ideograms or English alphabets, as in this case, or other diagrams as shown in the previous puzzle on the comet in the last slide. So this is it's very hard to create such puzzles. As for Chinese character or Chinese ideogram endgame compositions, this is the Chinese ideogram for a bull or an ox, a neo, and it was created by Zhao Dianzong. All these are all fully functional puzzles. Incidentally, endgame compositions have been one of the ways to express the feelings of the Chinese for various issues, like the late centenarian Xiangqi Grandmaster Xie. He created several endgame compositions when he was very young, and called them these endgame compositions were related to the various political issues and wars in China at that time. Xiangqi endgame compositions have also been used to commemorate the passing away of very important people who have contributed to Xiangqi or other fields. They can also be used to express certain ideas in a more subtler and artistic way. And there are many other themes other than all the endgame compositions that I mentioned above. For example, in this puzzle, Red's solitary cannon would be able to defeat the entire black enemy in this situation. And in some endgame compositions, the theme of a final checkmate with one solitary pawn can be seen. And if you solve this puzzle, you will see that the final kill will consist of a smothered checkmate by the pawn. And so this is a short summary of the various ways that Xiangqi endgame specialists create their endgame puzzles. So this was from a book by Shi Yi, one of the most prominent Xiangqi endgame specialists in the past century. He's over 90 years old now and is still residing in Beijing, and is still very active in matters concerning Xiangqi. And I've tried my best to translate the various methods, and while they look simple, it's anything but so. So I hope that you have enjoyed this short video whereby I've tried to summarize and introduce Xiangqi Endgame compositions. I hope that after seeing this video, more people will be interested in this very important discipline of Xiangqi and be able to enjoy the beauty and the artistic value of these Endgame compositions. And special thanks must be given to Gino Cham for his brilliant diving photos, and also to Henry Hong Song Fa, who gave me the book that was used to summarize the techniques before. Incidentally, Henry is one of the strongest Endgame composers of his generation, and he's still very young, about 30 odd years. And we shall see more of him. I'm trying to cajole him to share more of his work with us. And I've published his work on my website and on my Facebook page many times before. And again, all the puzzles that have been included in today's short video, they can be accessed at the following URL here, and it is an interactive board whereby you can try out the puzzles yourself. And thank you for your support, and I hope to see you soon. I will be trying to do more videos showing the different facets of Xiangqi in the near future. And thank you again.